Yo, champs in the making, Starmeistr here. Team Rocket has always been one of my favorite things from the Pokemon anime, and Pokemon Journeys has recently released a special trailer that blew the minds of everyone on social media. We're finally getting another Team Rocket focused episode. And after 13 years, the writers decided to bring back Cassidy and Butch in the Pokemon anime in the same episode. Are you kidding me? In celebration of this long-awaited fun dynamic, I present you my attempt on a Hardcore Nuzlocke on Pokemon HeartGold using only the Pokemon of Jesse, James, Cassidy, and Biff.
I told you it's not Biff, it's Butch!
Pokemon HeartGold bestows us a total of 15 encounters. And while James did have a Gyarados at one point, I decided to ban this Pokemon this time because I've already used it in 2 of my previous Nuzlockes. So, the complete rules for this Nuzlocke are found in the description below, but to summarize, the Nuzlocke should be played on set mode, no items in battle, and no overleveling past the highest leveled Pokemon of the Gym Leader or Elite Four member. Last year, I made a tweet advertising my channel and I promised to give a shoutout to the people who retweeted. I was supposed to give the shoutout on my Lance Nuzlocke, but I forgot. I'm not forgetting it this time, and yes, we managed to reach our 2,500 subscriber goal for the year, so thank you so much to everyone for supporting my channel. My deepest gratitude belongs to the following people: Emma, JLF, Pokefurlax, Miggy, Elio, Yuki, Aleximo, Dino, Luap, Akai, Andriana, and Kevin. I definitely couldn't have done it without your support, so thank you so much. So, prepare for trouble and make it quadruple, and consider giving this video a thumbs up, it helps out a lot. Also, before anything else, don't forget to carve your names in the Rock of Eternity by subscribing to my channel and hit the notification bell for more fun content. Oh, and follow me on Twitter, @Starmeistr, where we talk about Pokemon and denounce the evils of truth and love. And since I wish not to prolong your agony, let's begin our Pokemon HeartGold Hardcore Nuzlocke using only Team Rocket's Pokemon. The first predicament of this run is choosing the gender of our character. Jesse and Cassidy are females, and James and Bill are males, so we need a tiebreaker. But then I remembered that I was forgetting something, the most iconic member of Team Rocket, who sadly couldn't be in this Nuzlocke because he's a Soul Silver exclusive. So in memory of Meowth, who's a boy, I chose to play as a male protagonist. Plus, who would wanna play as Lyra when we've got best boy Ethan in here? And besides, Chris was robbed. Oh, speaking of Ethan and Chris, me and my bro Luap are currently doing a review series on Pokemon Chronicles. And Jimmy and Marina, who are basically the anime counterparts of Ethan and Chris, will appear in our next episode 2 days from now. Now, it's time to choose our starter. And since none of either Jesse, James, Cassidy, or Buzz own any of the starters, I just picked Chikorita, so our rival will have a Cyndaquil, which is probably the most difficult one to face against. After receiving the Pokédex from Professor Oak, Professor Elm called me saying that someone broke into his lab and stole one of his Pokemon. So I dashed back to Newbark Town at a breakneck pace, but on my way home, I encountered a red-haired Wait, aren't you the son of our boss? What are you doing here? Anyways, after beating the heck out of Giovanni's baby, I went back to report what I found. Now, it's time to name our rival, and I remember the one thing that Team Rocket hates. So I named him Twerp. Lyra then proceeded to teach us how to catch a Pokemon, like, girl, we've been poaching Pokemon for 25 years now. Now that we've got some Pokeballs, I started searching for my first encounter in Route 29, Cassidy's Rattata, who I named Robber. And thank goodness it had the Guts ability, along with the naive nature. We continued poaching more Pokemon and got James's Bellsprout on Route 31. I named her Thief, and she's got the impish nature and the chlorophyll ability. James actually had 2 Victreebels in the anime, but since we're playing on Dupes claws, we're only allowed to catch 1. We eventually arrived at Violet City, and the first thing we did was to bite every single Pokemon in the Sprout Tower, unlocking our access to the Violet Gym. And this battle came down to pure luck. Bellsprout isn't useful at all despite her ability to inflict status conditions, so I only had a teeny-weeny Rattata against Falkner's Pidgey and Pidgeotto. First, I pre-poisoned Robber by battling a Spinarak with Poison Sting in one of the routes to activate her Guts ability. Robber did quick work on the Pidgey with a single bite, but Pidgeotto was the scary part. The only way we win this battle is if we get at least 1 flinch and if Pidgeotto never crits us. First turn we used Bite, and they flinched. Next, I used Bite again, it didn't flinch, but their Gust didn't crit either, allowing us to finish the battle with 1 more bite. So, Falkner dead. Our next encounter was found south of Violet City, Cassidy's tentacle, who I named Bandit. She's got the quirky nature and the liquid ooze ability. After going through Union Cave, I caught James's Hoppip and named him Burglar. He's got the careful nature and the chlorophyll ability. First order of business was to take down our co-workers and slowpoke well. And while Proton almost killed us, we breezed through the battles pretty easily. Before challenging Bugsy, I decided to first battle Twerp while my entire team is still intact at this point. I sent Bandit against Ghastly to set up 2 layers of toxic spikes. After that, we switched to Robber and killed the Ghastly with a single bite. Next came the Quilava. I tried switching to Bandit but they just love to spam smoke screen, so a few turns later, Quilava eventually succumbed to Toxic. Last was a Zubat who just went down to a bite and a Hyper Fang. Now it's time for Bugsy. Oops. This is probably the most precarious battle in this run. We've been literally hanging on a thin thread the entire time. I led with Burglar as Bugsy sent out his ace right off the bat. Since the opponent does not see a kill with any of their moves, then I know that they're gonna use either Focus Energy or Leer. They used Focus Energy and thankfully our Stun Spore managed to connect. Next turn, we chipped some damage with Tackle as they went for the U-turn, which didn't crit despite the Focus Energy. Bugsy sent out his Kakuna, so I switched to Thief, who is immune to getting poisoned, and afflicted them with Sleep Powder. They woke up the next turn, but I just decided to stay with Thief until Bugsy used his Super Potion. This time, I switched to Bandit and used Acid until they died. Next was a Scyther again. And while Bandit can tank a U-turn, I'm not planning for her to take damage now, so there's only one thing to do. That is to sacrifice Burglar, who I don't see becoming that useful in the future. And Scyther just used Focus Energy. Burglar couldn't escape death this time as Scyther just went for the quick attack. Now that I have a safe switch in, I finally set in my ace, Robber. This was super scary because a single miss of Hyper Fang would mean the end of the run. But Robber just crit his Hyper Fang. Metapod was sent last and was also one-shot by Hyper Fang. And that was Bugsy. After the battle, Burglar was bound to evolve, but nope, you're dead. After traversing the empty forests of Ilex, we finally arrived at the hub of Team Rocket's operations, Goldenrod City. In the game corner, I bought an Ekans who I named Stealer. He's got the rash nature and the shed skin ability, which means no intimidate. I then headed north to find this one-person encounter Yanma who I named Larcener, and he's equipped with the lax nature and the speed boost ability. While grinding for the Whitney fight, I stumbled across this shiny Rattata. And even if my track record says that I kill shiny Pokemon 100% of the time, I'm not doing it this time. At this point, I decided that I'm gonna replace my original Rattata who has been carrying us all these times. But this shiny Rattata has the runaway ability instead of guts. So no thanks, I don't want you. I guess a Rattata by any other color is just as sweet? It wasn't long until I battled Whitney, another scary gym leader. I led with Bandit against Clefairy. I decided to set up Toxic Spike so that Miltank will use her Lomberry when she enters the field. I don't know why I set up another layer of Toxic Spikes, but after that, it was an exchange of attacks between Bandit and Clefairy, coupled with some healing on Whitney's part. Clefairy's Metronome always produced favorable results for us, so we managed to take down Clefairy with more Bubble Beams. Last was everyone's favorite Miltank. As planned, she got poisoned, causing her to consume her berry. On the first turn, I decided to stay and deal some damage since Bandit can survive a non-critical hit stomp. They outsped and landed a critical hit stomp, killing Bandit in the process. That was unfortunate, but there was nothing I could have done at that point. I sent out Thief on the field as she evaded a flinch from Stomp and landed her Stun Spore on the Miltank. Now, I can't risk switching directly to Robber, so I had to make another sacrifice, this time with my newly acquired Stealer. He survived the first stomp, allowing us to outspeed the next turn and land a Screech. Miltank never got fully paralyzed and finally landed the finishing stomp on the Stealer. This death won't be in vain as I got a free switch into Robber. On the first turn, we hit them with Headbutt, which brought them to less than half health, and we got the flinch. Robber then landed a final Headbutt and won us the battle. Seriously, flinch, crit, flinch on back-to-back-to-back gym leaders? I absolutely love this Rattata. He's definitely one of the most iconic Pokemon of any of my runs. And as a well-deserved reward, he finally evolved into Raticate. Whitney was being a sore loser about it, no wonder why everybody hates her.
There was something that prevented me from having friends when I was a little girl.
It must have been your personality.
On Route 36, I found my next encounter in the form of Growlithe. Now, unlike other Team Rocket Pokemon, James's Growlithe was never part of Team Rocket, but he still is a Pokemon owned by a Team Rocket member, so he counts. However, Growlithe is a good boy, so I'm not giving him a criminal nickname. And since he already has a canonical nickname, I decided to give him that. Let's welcome Growly to the team, and he's got the quiet nature and the intimidate ability. After battling some trainers, Thief evolved into Weepinbell, and he was instrumental in taking down the Sudowoodo that was blocking the road. In Ecruteak City, we, the good Team Rocket, took down this bad Team Rocket who was messing with this poor kimono girl. I then went inside the burn tower and put this twerpish do-batter in his place. So, Ghastly, dead. Magnemite, dead. Quilava, dead. Zubat, dead. Before exiting the tower, I caught James's most iconic coughing who's got the hasty nature and the levitate ability. I named her Poacher, which reminded me of the episode where Team Rocket released Weezing and Arbok to protect the young Coughing and Ekans from a Pokemon Poacher. With my team ready for battle, I went inside the creepy heights of Ecruteak Gym and challenged Morty. But with Guts boosted super effective crunch on Robber, Ghastly dead. Haunter 1 dead. Gengar dead. Haunter 2 dead. In the west of Ecruteak, we found this Snubble who I named Raider. She's got the rash nature and the intimidate ability. Not long after, I reached Olivine City, and the first thing I did was to grab the good rod from this fisherman. I then decided to head east of Ecruteak to catch Mankey who I named Marauder. He's got the naughty nature and the vital spirit ability. Next, I smashed through all the trainers in the lighthouse, which resulted in the evolution of Raider into Granbull. I was barely breathing as I climbed to Jasmine's chamber, and she had the nerve to be like, "Can you get me a medicine in Cianwood City?" Fine, I'ma go to Cianwood. But before that, let me first fish the Shelder who I named Embezzler. She's got the modest nature and the skill link ability. Marauder also evolved into Primate, then we challenged Chuck. I led the battle with Raider to get off an Intimidate onto his Primate. First turn they used Leer as we did a good chunk of damage with Headbutt. Rock Slide surprisingly did pathetic damage, so the next Headbutt took it down. Last was a Poliwrath, and he was dangerous because he could put us to sleep with Hypnosis and attack with a base 150 stab Focus Punch. First turn, they used Hypnosis, which means that they're definitely gonna use Focus Punch on the following turn. So I switched to Thief, who resisted the move. We then survived the Body Slam, got paralyzed, but broke through paralysis and landed a Sleep Powder.
Well. How the turntables...
I then switched to Robber while Poliwrath remained asleep. Next turn, we hit our first Headbutt and thankfully they remained asleep. We hit another Headbutt which brought them to the red as they consumed their Citrus Berry. They finally woke up, but they tried using Focus Punch so they failed. One more Headbutt was enough to KO the Poliwrath, winning us the Storm Badge. Upon exiting the gym, I almost forgot that I still need to get that stupid medicine from the shop. I then talked to this guy who gave me my next encounter, Shucky the Shuckle, and he's got the relaxed nature and the gluttony ability. Here's your medicine, Amphi, now excuse me cause I've still got some stuff to do. Before moving on, I got my hands on a Leaf Stone and Water Stone and evolved Thief into Victreebel and Embezzler into Cloyster. I then went east towards Mahogany Town. Oh hey there, Suicune. I entered this sketchy building and hey, that's me from the previous Nuzlocke. In the Team Rocket hideout, we show these wannabe admins who truly are the more popular and beloved Team Rocket members. Petrel's team got one-shot by Robber's Headbutt, and look at this amazing teamwork with the Fabulance. Dragonite smartly went for Fly, evading my Surf Attack, and a couple more Ice Beams killed Ariana's remaining Pokemon. Our next gym battle was against a gym leader who arguably got the biggest glow-up ever. I led with Thief against Seal. We put them to sleep with Sleep Powder, then used Swords Dance at the first turn. I set up another Swords Dance, but I decided to wake up this turn, landing an Icy Wind, which is bad because now Dugong and Piloswine might outspeed. We then took them down with a single Vine Whip, and out came the Piloswine. When I was playing this game, I actually thought that we're still gonna outspeed them despite the speed drop. But they outsped, and used Blizzard, which missed. Boy oh boy, that Blizzard probably would have killed us. Vine Whip one-shot the Piloswine, and finally came the Dugong. This time, I switched to Raider, who managed to deal some damage with Headbutt, but a couple of Aurora Beams brought us to a dangerous amount of health. I then switched to Embezzler, who walls everything Pryce can give. And this battle took so long because Surf was her best attacking move, which always brings Dugong to the red, provoking Pryce to constantly heal along with Dugong's consistent use of rest. They literally healed 5 times back to full health. And on our last Surf PP, we finally managed to take down the Dugong. I never thought a Pryce battle of all gyms would take this long. Jasmine was next, and with all the trouble we went through for her, I expected her to give us a fun gym battle. And yeah, it was fun. We've got Choice Specs Embezzler and Magnemite 1 dead, Magnemite 2 dead, Steelix dead. As soon as I exited the gym, Professor Elm called for help to take down Team Rocket. But little did he know that we are Team Rocket. Now, we're on my favorite part of the game, where Team Rocket disguises as Team Rocket to stop Team Rocket from infecting the world with devastation and blighting all people in every nation. Betrayal was again a joke as Surf just one-shot everything. The twerp made me sweat a little bit because I forgot that Haunter outspeeds us, but no worries, Robert took care of everything else. Proton was another joke as Embezzler again one-shot Surf all of his Pokemon. Ariana is typically the hardest one to face, but with Choice Specs Ice Beam, Arbok dead, Vileplume dead, Murkrow dead. Last was Archer, who was completely laughable, like Houndour dead, Coughing dead, Houndoom dead. Like, who was in charge of building these teams? Now the real Team Rocket have finally thrusted the hammer of justice down into the black darkness of the universe, we ventured through Ice Path and shoved the Kimono Girl who was blocking the way. After exiting in Blackthorn City, I immediately headed to Dark Cave and caught the most iconic Team Rocket Pokemon in this entire run, Wobbuffet, who I named Pilferer. And she's got the docile nature and the Shadow Tag ability. A few grindings later, it's time to take our final badge from Claire. I led with Thief in the battle against Gyarados. First turn, they attacked us with Dragon Rage, but our Sleep Powder missed. Next turn, they brought us to 49 HP, and we again tried our chances with Sleep Powder, which thankfully hit. I then switched to Robber, who managed to set up 2 Swords Dances before Gyarados awoke. But with 2 Swords Dances plus Silk Scarf, Gyarados dead. Dragonair 1 dead. Kingdra dead. Dragonair 2 dead. Claire wouldn't give us a badge, so we had to answer these 5 stupid questions about Pokemon. What is the most important for raising Pokemon?
Violence.
Before going to Kanto, we traversed through the puzzling cave of Mount Mortar, which I've never done before. There we defeated Black Belt Kyo and got the baby Tyrogue, who I named Crook. He's got the Guts ability and the Calm nature. I then carefully maintained his attack and defense stats at the same level to make sure he evolves into Hitmontop by level 20. I went through all this trouble, and spoiler alert, I never used Hitmontop in any of my important battles. Next, it's time to beat these 5 Kimono girls and their evolutions in a row without healing. First was Umbreon. I led with Robber but quickly switched to Marauder. Karate Chop managed to crit, but it wasn't enough to take down the Umbreon as they hit us with Confuse Ray. Next turn, we hurt ourselves with Confusion, but on the turn after that, we hit our strength and that's 1 Kimono girl down. Espeon died to a single crunch and Flareon died to a single strength, so next was Jolteon. Jolteon outspeeds, but I risked a crit here which paid off as we survived and OHKO'd them with strength. Vaporeon was last and we immediately switched to Raider who didn't tank a Surf well. I then switched to Thief to absorb another Surf and hit back with Razor Leaf as we again evaded a crit, this time from Aurora Beam. The next Razor Leaf landed and that's it. We then caught the legendary Ho-Oh. I mean, at least this version of Team Rocket managed to capture one of the Tower Duo unlike in the anime. The Johto portion is done, so we now explore the Kanto region to make known the greatness of Team Rocket. We rode the waterfalls of the Tojo Falls. Giovanni sir? Are you here? No? The final fight with Twerp at the end of Victory Road was surprisingly a bit harder than I expected. First, I sent an Embezzler against Sneasel. Right off the bat, they crit us with Feint Attack as we set up our first layer of Toxic Spikes. We absorbed another Feint Attack and set up the second layer of Toxic Spikes. I switched to Raider for the Intimidate and to unlock Embezzler from the Choice Specs. After absorbing 2 more Feint Attacks, Sneasel dead. Magneton dead. Third was the Haunter, and I've learned my lesson that this thing outspeeds, so I pivoted to Robber to absorb the Shadow Ball, and 1 crunch took it down. Next was Typhlosion, and we couldn't OHKO this thing right now, so I switched to the good boy Growly to absorb the Lava Plume. I risked a crit and used Leer, then switched back to Robber to absorb the Swift. Toxic damage plus a defense drop was enough to one-shot Typhlosion with strength. Fifth was a Kadabra, whom we outsped and OHKO'd with Crunch. And last was a Golbat whom Raider killed with a couple of headbutts. Are you sure this kid is intended to be the heir of Team Rocket? Anyways, before the final showdown, I evolved Poacher into Weezing, and it still amazes me how basically all Gen 1 Pokemon can learn Thunderbolt. And without further ado, let us show you the team that we, the true members of Team Rocket, used to conquer the Johto region. Robber, Cassidy's Eradicate with a move pool of Strength, Swords Dance, Crunch, and U-Turn. Poacher, James's Weezing with a move pool of Sludge Bomb, Thunderbolt, Flamethrower, and Explosion. Thief, James's Victreebel with a move pool of Leaf Blade, Knockoff, Swords Dance, and Sleep Powder. Growly, James's Growlithe with a move pool of Flamethrower, Crunch, Roar, and Leer. Pilferer, Jesse's Wobbuffet with a move pool of Counter, Mirror Coat, Safeguard, and Destiny Bond. And finally, Embezzler, Butch's Cloyster with a move pool of Surf, Ice Beam, Toxic Spikes, and Ice Shard. We blasted through the doors of the Pokemon League at the speed of light and challenged the Elite Four with a nasty surprise. First was Will with his Psychic types. I led with Robber against Xatu, but with Black Glass's Guts boosted Crunch, Xatu dead, Jinx dead. We couldn't OHKO Executor with Crunch, so we went for a 4-time super effective U-turn as he switched to Pilferer. I did this in order to bait Will into sending out his second Xatu. Expecting an ominous wind, I switched back to Robber and Xatu dead. Last was a Slowbro, so we U-turned back to Pilferer. And while they did confuse us with Water Pulse, Pilferer eventually snapped out of it and hit them with a powerful Mirror Coat. That's one Elite Four down. Second was Koga. And I remember you were in Team Rocket back in the day. To administer justice to this region, we had to bring our symbol of goodwill in this final fight, so I led with Best Boy Growly against Ariados. Choice Specs allowed us to kill them with Flamethrower, and next was a disastrous Muck. I switched to Poacher in a battle of the poison types. They kept on using Minimize, but somehow, Poacher kept on hitting all of our Flamethrowers, eventually getting the burn. Muck was left with just a sliver, so they healed, and we're back to square one. This time, Poacher missed 5 Flamethrowers in a row until Muck decided to hit us with Screech. I wasn't comfortable with it, so I switched to Pilferer who also took a Screech. Next turn, they hit us with Toxic, deeming our counter useless. Now I risked a crit and absorbed the Gonk Shot, but we ended their career with a double trouble counter. Next was a Forretress, so I sent back Growly and OHKO'd it with Flamethrower. Fourth was Venomoth, and they hit us with Supersonic, but Growly proved to be the most loyal friend as he broke through confusion and OHKO'd the Venomoth with Flamethrower. Last was Crobat, who only had physical moves, so I sent in Embezzler to OHKO it with Ice Beam. Third was Bruno with his fighting types. And I recently learned from the amazing Flygon HG that this Hitmontop calculates his triple kick damage counting only the first hit, which only has a 10 base power. So in Bruno's eyes, Dig will result in more damage, so it's safe to lead with Robber and set up a Swords Dance. And they use Dig. On the semi-invulnerable turn, we set up our second Swords Dance. Dig plus poison damage brought us to below half health, but Citrus Berry restored some of our HP. And with plus for attack, Hitmontop dead, Hitmonlee dead, Machamp dead. Fourth was the Onix, who can't be killed with a single hit, so I U-turned into Poacher, but they just used Sandstorm. Next turn, they healed as we used the Flamethrower and we got the burn. We switched to Thief, and now they went for their special move Dragon Breath, which not only crit but also paralyzed us. It doesn't matter though, because we just killed them the next turn with Vine Whip. Last was a Hitmonchan. I intended on having Thief on the field to bait either a Fire Punch or Ice Punch into Embezzler. They used Ice Punch and we just two-shot them with Ice Beam. Fourth was Garen with our Dark types. I led with Thief against the Umbreon and hit our Sleep Powder in the first turn. Next, I switched to Robber while they remained asleep. We managed to set up 2 Swords Dance and Umbreon never awoke, so Umbreon dead, Gengar dead, Houndoom dead. Fourth was a Murkrow, but we already took so much poison damage and this thing has Sucker Punch, so I switched to Embezzler. And with that, Murkrow dead, Vileplume dead. Never would I think that a Karen battle would be the most straightforward Elite Four battle. Finally was a nobly heroic man of our times, the champion of our previous Nuzlocke who is now about to get ironically dethroned by Team Rocket. I led with Poacher against Gyarados, and this was the very reason I taught her Thunderbolt. We easily absorbed the waterfall as they barely survived our Thunderbolt. I knew that they were gonna heal the next turn, so I continued in using Thunderbolt. This time they decided to use Flail, which scared the heck out of me because at this point, the move now has 200 base power. Poacher easily tanked it though, allowing us to land our final Thunderbolt. Next was the first Dragonite, and we aren't sure if this was the one carrying Thunder or Blizzard. So the safest play was to sacrifice one of my Pokemon. And no, not Growly. So I decided to switch to Thief, who didn't take the Dragon Rush pretty nicely. We were able to heal with Citrus Berry and they used another Dragon Rush, which we survived, but flinched. There was nothing that I could do at this point and let Thief die in this fight. But they missed their Dragon Rush and we hit our Sleep Powder. Thief deserved to live after all those clutches, so next turn I switched to Embezzler and Oko the Dragonite with the Ice Beam. Next was the Aerodactyl and they missed their Rock Slide, so we Oko'd it as well. After that was the second Dragonite, who paralyzed us, but we also killed them with a single Ice Beam. Fifth was Lance's strongest Dragonite, and I know that we're dead to Fire Blast. So at this point, it was time to let go of Embezzler so I can get a safe switch to another Pokemon, that being Pilferer. They used Outrage, which brought us to less than half health, but Counter dealt double the damage, KOing the Dragonite from full health. Last was Lance's Charizard. They used Air Slash, so our Mirror Coat brought them to red health. Now I knew that they were gonna heal, so it was the perfect time to use Destiny Bond. They're now trapped, so I should keep on using Destiny Bond, right? But that's not what happened because I stupidly went for Mirror Coat as they smartly used Shadow Claw. The next Air Slash then killed Pilferer, so I sent in Robert to revenge kill his fallen comrades. Strength dealt more than half of their health as they missed their Air Slash. And with that, another Strength was enough to win us the battle and the run. Lance can now hide in shame as he watches Team Rocket conquering the universe. This was overall a fun Nuzlocke to play. It was fun building a team using Pokemon that are typically considered average. Raticate and Cloyster were definitely the MVPs of this run, providing answers to a wide variety of battles. Victory Bell was the queen of clutch, and Weezing did amazing in the Pokemon League too. Using Wobbuffet in a playthrough can never be not fun, and I'm very proud of Growly for making the champion team. He's definitely the mascot of this run. Thank you all so much for watching this far into the video. Feel free to comment down below which Nuzlocke run you want me to do next. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to circle around my YouTube channel all day and night and tell your friends to click on the like and subscribe buttons and hit the notification bell for more fun content. Also, follow me on Twitter @Starmeistr. With everything said and done, remember that anywhere there's peace in the universe, Team Rocket will be there to make everything worse. Thanks for watching, and we're blasting off again.